Elizabeth L. Cline, Overdressed, The Shockingly High Cost of Cheap Fashion. Prepare to delve into the world of fast fashion as we explore the transformation of the clothing industry, driven by the American throwaway culture. In Overdressed, The Shockingly High Cost of Cheap Fashion, Elizabeth L. Cline exposes the unsustainable trajectory of fashion, as cheap clothes flood the market and consumers increasingly treat their clothes as disposable items. Discover how the quest for low prices has shaped customer attitudes and driven manufacturers to cut costs by compromising both on quality and ethical practices. This eye-opening journey also highlights the environmental impact of the fast fashion industry and the growth of overseas garment production.
The rise of fast fashion. The clothing industry has undergone a drastic change with the emergence of fast fashion. In the past, clothes were bought twice a year and valued for their quality. However, with the introduction of discount retailers and fast fashion strategies in the 1990s, clothes are now cheaper and more readily available. This has led to an American throwaway culture where clothes are treated as disposable. While this transformation has positively impacted consumers' pockets, it has had harmful effects on the environment and garment industry. Manufacturers have relocated their plants to cut production costs, resulting in the collapse of the U.S. garment industry. The evolution of fashion industry. The fashion industry has undergone a paradigm shift in the last few decades. The production line shifted from the U.S. to other countries, and clothing companies started outsourcing actual production, focusing more on design and sales. The North American Free Trade Agreement further lowered restrictions on imports from other countries. Cheaper imports flooded the market, causing Americans to view clothing as disposable. High fashion highlighted designers, becoming larger multinational organizations, which ironically intensified the purchase of cheap fashion, as affordable clothes made people feel like they're getting a deal. Fast fashion responded by adding quick detailing to replicate high fashion, making consumers feel like they were buying prestige. The dark side of fast fashion. The rise of fast fashion has resulted in a decline in clothing quality, increased use of cheaper man-made fibers, and a loss of sartorial knowledge among consumers. With clothing becoming cheaper, manufacturers are pressured to cut corners to compete on price, resulting in poorly made and overly simple fashion. Fast fashion companies also rely on continual consumption, offering cheap, cookie-cutter goods to keep customers consistently buying. This has created a cycle where consumers demand cheaper clothes, which in turn reinforces the need for manufacturers to offer low-priced items. Ultimately, the fast fashion industry is a creativity-stifling business that has had a significant impact on both consumers and designers alike. Fashion waste, a growing environmental concern. Clothing waste is a major environmental problem, with the U.S. alone discarding 12.7 million tons of textiles annually. The production process, particularly in countries without ecological regulations, harms the environment, while increasing usage of plastic in garment construction exacerbates the issue. Charities are struggling to cope with the deluge of fast fashion, which often ends up in landfills. This has led to a decrease in the availability of high-quality vintage and consignment clothing, as charity shops once accepted them but are now overwhelmed by cheap clothing. The fast fashion industry must take responsibility for reducing its waste. The cost of fast fashion. Fast fashion's relentless demand has resulted in substandard working conditions and the exploitation of garment workers. Garment workers in countries like Bangladesh are paid poorly and have little bargaining power. Retailers claiming social responsibility still face challenges as the cost of fast fashion leads to extreme overtime and illegal labor practices. Change can only come when consumers demand better conditions for garment workers. Failure to do so means perpetuating the sweatshop phenomenon and the exploitation of those who work in it. The unsustainability of China's fast fashion industry. China's fast fashion industry has been thriving despite low wages and illegal labor unions. However, with rising labor costs and increasing demand for inexpensive clothes from Chinese consumers, the industry may be facing unsustainability. Manufacturers are now relocating to countries like Bangladesh, but production standards and quality remain subpar. The lack of infrastructure also endangers workers. As a result, fast fashion prices are starting to rise, and the industry's future in China is uncertain. Sewing can save you money. The fast fashion industry has caused consumers to abandon basic sewing skills, resulting in excessive consumption and waste. However, a slow and local fashion movement is promoting the benefits of sewing, such as expressing individuality, extending the life of clothing, and supporting local suppliers. By learning to sew, consumers can save money, avoid generic clothing, and give their clothes a personal touch by altering them. The key is to buy clothes that are truly loved, and making repairs instead of immediately discarding them. This will not only reduce clothing waste but also provide a source of personal inspiration. The movement encourages consumers to patronize local shops and markets for textiles and materials, leading to a more sustainable and ethical fashion industry.
As we've seen, fast fashion is a harmful and unsustainable reality of our modern consumer culture. This industry not only erodes the quality of garments, but it also has detrimental effects on the environment, garment workers' conditions, and the overall global market. Cline urges us to reconsider our relationship with our clothes. We must reevaluate our shopping habits and begin to treasure and maintain the garments we own by learning skills such as sewing and refashioning. In doing so, we will not only reconnect with our personal style but also support local businesses and the environment. The power to change lies in our hands, and it's time to take responsibility for the impact of our choices.